Says we're offline right now. Still offline. Now it says we're starting. And now I think we're live.
We're live on Thursday, October the 24th. Will Kanye actually drop the album? That's the question everyone has. And if he does, how many people are going to be mad?
What's it? I mean, have you heard any of the tracks from it? I'm sure there's leaks.
I've not looked for any leaks because I just want to hear it all in one complete work.
Sure.
So I haven't looked or to see if they've been dropping any singles. I know Beats One was still playing. They were doing a 2-hour mix of just Kanye's music. Now they're replaying the interview that aired earlier today. So I haven't looked. So we'll hear. But all the conversations today on Beats One, Low Key, who's one of the DJs on Beats One, he definitely is not a fan of what they're calling the post Kanye era, this new Kanye. He's not a fan of it, and I don't think he's a fan of Kanye releasing an album with so overtly religious themes. He doesn't like that. So I think we're going to get a lot of that kind of. I think some people, because of the religious themes, are going to say the album sucks, and I think some people who like the religious themes are going to say the album is great. So I don't think the album's going to get a fair and objective review. Everyone's going to look at it more from an ideological perspective than a musical perspective, which is unfortunate for the album already.
Huh. I've heard rumors that there were sometimes they repurposed a couple tracks from Yandi to be on the album. I've also heard that some of the tracks they repurposed from Yandi contained lyrical content that does not align with Kanye's new direction, and so he actually took one of the songs and like kind of completely reworked it because it originally had a Nicki Minaj verse on it that didn't it didn't quite work. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm curious if that track will show up. I don't remember what it was called, but I doubt Nicki will be on the album.
Right, I doubt it. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's gonna be. Like I said, I think it's gonna be a major dividing point over it. I think long term. I think what's gonna happen, and they were talking about this on Beats One. They have a feeling that long term Kanye fans will be the ones who will probably be most harsh against it, and newer fans will be one who will be more supportive of it.
I'm curious because I feel like his last album, Yay, the 6-track album, was considered pretty bad by most people except the diehard Kanye fans.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
But I guess I don't know what that will mean for this one. I mean, what was your take on Yay?
Well, I mean, I can't say. I mean, okay, and we'll say this when we talk about this at midnight, because I think we have to start with this tonight when we start. Is I will never classify myself as a Kanye fan, right?
Sure.
Because I mean, obviously, I know how influential some of his albums are. I mean, we've talked about, obviously he's a genius as a producer. Obviously, he's brilliant at bringing all kinds of different sounds and influences together. But I can't say that, hey, I listened to a Kanye album 20 times. No, I listen to it, kind of say, okay, that's what Kanye does, and I kind of move on. So it's hard for me to make a major judgment about any of his albums other than going back and listening to them and trying to determine how they influence music moving forward. That's easy to do, but I can't ever say I've really been a fan, and probably a lot of it have not a fan. So anytime I hear one of his albums, like I guess the last album, it was like, yeah, he's making some statements. He's trying to clarify some things. That's interesting. But there was nothing about it that I thought was, from a musical perspective, overly amazing or anything. It was more, to me, it became more about the lyrical content than the musical content.
Sure. Well, it's weird because he did do a lot of weird production stuff on Yay, as well as on the Kids See Ghost album that came out.
Right.
that
Right.
that was interesting, and that's kind of where we got into the discussions where maybe he might go down as the guy who's known for being more of a producer than a rapper per se.
Yeah, well, I mean,
But it's
some
weird
already
because
put
he
it,
has
you know,
so
one of
many
the top.
singles in
Right.
his in the pre post Kanye era, uh, that are, I don't know if you want to call them classics, but songs like Gold Digger are going to be on the radio forever, I
Right.
think.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, he's classified by many, one of the top rappers, you know, and I think I think he's going to have a very interesting legacy. It's going to be his rapping. It's going to be his producing. It's going to be his controversy, his persona, his influence on culture, his influence on music. He's going to be, his legacy will be debated and talked about. Well, 20 years from now, there'll be probably college classes about it.
does he become the next Kirk Cameron if he goes all the way on the religious stuff, where people just don't take him seriously anymore?
See, I don't know that.
Do people take him
Here's
seriously
what I would
now?
say. I think in the African American community, there tends to be a greater, how can I say it? Yeah, people talk about Jesus, wonderful, great, and
Sure,
it's not considered that big a deal. It's not like, oh, he went Christian. Um, uh, Wherein it seems sometimes in the Caucasian world, okay, oh, he went Christian, now he's a Christian artist. You can have African American. I mean, look, I mean, Hammer was doing it way back in the day. He's talking about praying, and then the next song he's talking about whatever. And it's like it's kind of like in country the same way. You can talk about
sure.
Jesus in one song, and then the next song you talk about cheating. I think it's a cultural. I think they're like, and it's not just because of African American or white. It's just different segments of that culture of approaches religion, I guess, differently than I guess some people do, because some people look at it like, oh, he's religious now, so that's the end of him. He's no longer relevant because he's a religious rapper now. Some will take it that way, probably in all different walks of life, black and white. But I think there may be a greater acceptance of it in some circles of the African American community. But who knows? It's 2019, and people are definitely far more antagonistic towards religion than in years past.
Sure, and the roots there for even Kanye talking about his whatever his faith is are there all the way from the beginning, where he has his Jesus Walk song. He talks about God various times. In fact, I feel like there were times when he was trying to say parts of Life of Pablo were like a worship thing, like Kirk
Right.
Franklin was involved. Um, so it's for some people they don't really see any major shift that's happening here, but the way that he's talking seems
Exactly.
to be way more overtly religious than before.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that there's no question he's definitely far more religious now than he was. But because of his culture, he was already influenced by certain aspects of Christianity. But now it seems to be like a legitimate change in ideology.
And that not only was a religious influence on some of his lyrics, but the like a huge part of the production and stuff we were talking about is like gospel sampling or
Right. Right.
fusions of gospel into the musical side of what he's doing. So
Right.
I have a feeling this whole album might just be way more of that. We might not get any of the weird, or maybe less of the weird fusions that we might normally get. It might be just way more gospel focused
Yeah. It may
musically.
be. And again, it may be more an ideological statement than it is a musical statement.
Sure. Which
And that will disappoint a lot of people. A lot of Kanye fans want a musical statement, not an ideological statement. So that's, if it's viewed as an ideological statement, I think he'll get criticized by a lot of critics.
it would be cool if he were kind of able to do both, I think. That's the goal.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
But it is weird, and I think some of it might come down to where you come down on his quote unquote experimentation on Pablo and Yay and even the Kitsy Ghost album, where especially the Pablo album had a lot of ideas, but it was kind of a mess. It did not coalesce at all.
Right, right.
Whereas maybe I've heard people say like the Kids See Ghost is kind of what Pablo should have been, where there's a little bit more cohesion between the different sounds that are going on. Maybe we get to see more of that here. I don't know.
Right, but to be fair, they were talking about this on Beats One today. That for many of Kanye's albums, it takes 15 years for them to be appreciated. They were like, you don't really understand what Kanye's doing or appreciate it, and it takes a long time. And then 10 years later, people look back and go, "Whoa,
And
that's the." And they were talking about 808s and
that's
heartbreaks.
the
They were talking
perfect
about that.
example. Yeah.
Yeah, they were saying that people didn't get it at the time, and then later on, people looked back and go, "Wow!" And one of the reasons people looked back was they began to notice, "Hey, this changed rap. This was an instrumental moment in changing of rap's future." So sometimes when an album is released, you may go, "Well, that didn't really work," and then 10 years later, everybody's like, "Remember when that album came out and it was genius?" So that's always funny when that happens.
Okay, well, I think we have enough here for me to double check the streams and audio levels, and then so what time is the album? Is the album? Are they streaming it front to back at
Front
11?
to back, dropping right at 11.
Supposedly, if it's dropping.
Yeah, if it drops. And then we just need to make sure we have kind of a plan on how to approach it. My way was, I was since I know I don't know how you're going to view the album, but I'm going to definitely be looking at it from a theological perspective. So I thought when we start, we'll let everyone kind of know our religious backgrounds,
Sure.
right? Say, hey, this is where we're coming at it from a theological perspective, and then we'll try to look at the album from a theological perspective, from a musical perspective, and then we can make our predictions of musical impact, cultural impact. You know, to me, I'm more fascinated to see. We're going to have a whole lot of people in the world who don't really have much theological understanding and who don't even go to church. We're all going to be talking about an album called Jesus is King, which is
Sure.
going to be kind of fascinating to watch from a societal perspective. So I think that's how I was going to plan to go into it, unless you had a different kind of outline you wanted to go after it.
No, you kind of had the idea for this podcast, so I'll let you kind of lead that there.
Okay, and then I think you're usually better at picking up lyrics faster than I am. So I'm going to rely on you a lot for lyrical content,
We'll see.
because I always have a hard time hearing the lyrics the first time. I'm always focused on the music. I'm going to try not to do that this time, but I mean, we're going to be instantaneous reaction.
Yeah, we're gonna be running
So
hot, just like you do on the internet.
yeah, I watch. I mean, there's going to be people. I mean, I'm assuming social media is going to be blowing up between 11 and midnight with all kinds of reactions. So we can just throw ours into the mix. We'll just try to make ours more thoughtful and careful. And then what we don't, and we'll make sure we state that at the beginning, that, hey, this is an initial take. 24 hours from now, I may have a completely different view on the album. But here's what we think. And then try to look at it. How will Christians look at it? How will non-Christians look at it? How will music critics look at it? How will music fans look at it? How will Kanye fans look at it? And just try to offer some different perspectives from all of those different ways of looking at it.
Sounds good.
All
I'm
right.
gonna end this live stream. We can keep talking for a little bit. I'm gonna end this live stream and then I'll test everything and make sure that it sounded fine.
Okay. And make sure the recording's good.
Yeah, I think we're good on the audio. I can actually watch that one. We'll see how the live stream went.
All right, cool.